Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
Last week we talked about the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and I've put that out there as a special broadcast. And it's right. And that was an exceptional show, so I've kind of put that out separate. But the week before, we are kind of set on Article 1, Section 8. We talked about Clause 1, talking about the Congress having the power to collect taxes, debts that for the defense and general welfare of the United States. And Clause 2 talked about Congress having the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. So that was an interesting broadcast. Not that the United States has much credit in a lot of different ways. So we're on Clause 3, but I'm just going to jump real quick. It's interesting to me that in Clause 2, talking about the power to the Congress having the power to borrow money, and then in Clause 4, it has the Congress has the power to establish a uniform rule laws on the subject of bankruptcies. So does the Congress have the power to regulate their own bankruptcy? Because we've been in bankruptcy almost since they created this power to borrow money in Clause 2. I was reading that. That's the first thing popped into my mind when I was kind of going over this again. It's like what goes around comes around, I guess. So anyway, jumping on Clause 3. Let's talk about Clause 3. It's probably all we'll get to today. We're on Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, which says the Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. How interesting. If the Constitution was made up brand new, and if we allowed the state government of Georgia to regulate our Constitution, we'd probably be on our 11th Constitution right now, since they've reworked their entire Constitution 10 times already. That was a joke, son. Come on, laugh. Whether or not you got it or not, please laugh. And so it's interesting to me that they have the power to regulate commerce with the Indian tribes. I doubt that would be even in the Constitution if this particular clause was written up today. Now, once again, I have not put this up there, but I'm getting right now. I started off with Annenberg Classroom, getting my notes from there. Right now, I've switched over to this, which is schmoop.com. They have a much better, more exhaustive outline on each and every, not only each article, but each clause that I like. And they say the Congress has the power to impose regulations on interstate and international business, which I think they've done pretty good. This interstate commerce clause has been quite controversial in the history of constitutional law. For a long time, judges tended to read the clause narrowly, overturning federal laws they deemed focused mainly on regulating economic activity within states rather than between them. Not really understanding that a whole lot. Any insight anybody has on the regulatory power with foreign nations and between the states? Anybody have anything on that?
Well, between the states, we've got, a little bit later when we're talking about it is the 10th Amendment, which is states' rights. and there's a lot of power within each state to regulate their own commerce, but when it goes across the border, that's when the federal government has the right to say, and that's what I think this is kind of saying there on the state portion of that. I don't know much about the foreign portion, but again, it's not the job of the Congress to tell businesses how to do business. It's the job of the Congress to allow free and fair trade and the economic impact that it will have on each individual state and the country as a whole. I think. I mean, that's
to regulate it anyway.
Yeah, to regulate.
Keep it balanced, keep it regulated so that they don't, get off balance.
They're off balance though. They're so off balance because you think about it, they've been passing a lot of laws and regulations here lately. In fact, they just passed one in the Supreme Court about, someone's sexual preference. I don't care. It's in the four walls of your bedroom. I don't want to hear about it. And Mark, you've said this. Why do we need to deal with that? Now I understand that, they're doing this because some people have found out that they're this or that, whatever. Okay. They're all people that God has created. I don't agree with their lifestyle. It's a sin. It's lawlessness. I get that, but we still should show love and kindness to them. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't want them being in Sunday school teaching my grandchildren about Yeshua, Jesus, when they are not doing right. But yet there's a lot of Sunday school teachers out there that are heterosexuals, normal, everyday heterosexual people that are teaching the children in Sunday school, and they're not even walking the path either correctly. So, but back to Congress, they're so unbalanced. They're so unfair. They're thinking of their own agenda, their own pockets today. And you've got, if it's not done their way, they'll go and bite somebody else like they've been doing to Trump. They don't like what Trump's been doing. They are just ripping him to shreds. But yet that man, I believe he has an armor on, because that man stands there and just, fine, you want to say that about me? You want to call me a fool? Fine, call me a fool. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And he doesn't wear a mask. I wonder why. Anyway, but there's just, they have stolen from the people, is what I believe. They have stolen from the people. And the people, the people, okay, are the ones that are their bosses. And we, the people, can go out and vote them out. But a lot of people do not. They sit and they don't even go and vote. And we end up with votes that have Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy and people that were dead being voted in. And we need to start standing up and we need to start speaking. Right. But we also need to do it as believers in a loving manner, but stand firm.
Right. Well, like I say, I think the key word here is to regulate commerce. There in the wording of this, there's got to be some kind of regulation in here.
Can I just say, I think the only regulation that can really have any impact on Congress is if the term is limited. If you make a career out of it, you're dealing with people that are so deep in it and are so dug into it. And we talk about roots, their roots go way down deep and they have their constituents and then they're all working together. And it's very dangerous. I mean, there should be a limitation on how long you can serve in the Congress, just like there is on the presidency. I mean, I think it should be 2 years. When people start making a career out of this, it becomes, they become authoritative, if you will. And they become, they have a stronghold. And to me, what we're going through right now reminds me of Hanukkah. When there was a major upheaval during that period of time where they were trying to destroy the minds of the people who were following the word of God. Alexander the Great and his ilk, if you will. And they were trying to change the thinking of man. They were trying to get to the thinking process of man. And hallelujah for the ragtag Maccabees that rose up against it. And I'm not talking about the ones that are rising up against it that are blind, leading the blind. I'm talking about us. We need to take a stand and against this. We, the people, need to come against this with, again, voting. But now we could have a situation where we have voting that's manipulated. It's already been done before. People that are dead voting, people who are immigrants voting.
Sure.
I mean, there is such corruption. There's such sin in the camp. And I think that one of the people on the chat room said, oh, they'll never take our freedom away from us. But the truth of the matter is we have a responsibility. We, the people, have a responsibility. And we have to take a stand. And we, the people, need to talk to people and say, you need to get out there and vote. Because President Trump is a disruptor. He disrupts the swamp. He disrupts the establishment, and they don't like it. And that you hear, if you listen to what they're saying this all the time. He's not on our page. He's not on our page. He doesn't talk like us. And that's what Biden just said in his last speech. We need someone that speaks with eloquence. We need someone that speaks.
Speaks with the servant's tongue.
What we need is action. That's what President Trump is. He's not a blah, 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 but he puts his words to action. We don't need someone that can speak. Oh, I love what they say. I love how they say it. Where's the beef? Where's the action? Where's the action speaks louder than words? Show me your action. Show me what you're doing for this nation. Show me that you are serving the people. Then I heard this word. We need a leader. No, we need a servant. We need a servant serving the people. We vote for him. We hire him. He serves the people. He serves the United States of America. And right now we're all like little puppy dogs. And I'll tell you, there was a time when people were like that. And a lot of them had happened right in a lot of the blue states. And the people that are depending on government for their food and their welfare, and the government would say, I'm using this as an exaggeration. Don't take it literally. Don't look it up and say they didn't give that much money. Say they said, okay, AviGayle, you can have $5 a week. Is that okay with you? $5 a week? Yes, $5 a week. And I would wait for my $5 a week paycheck, right? Or my whatever from the government. And then they'd say, I'm going to give you $10 a week in 2 months. Oh, yay. But you have to come to the town hall and show me that you really want me to give you $10 a month. Oh, yes, I'll be there. And then we'd get the $10 a month. So they bait people. And they bait them to say, oh, give me more government. Give me more government. I want the government to help me. I want the government to help me.
It's like a drug addict.
Now, this is a reality, though. And it's like, I'll give it an understanding. It's like a flea in a box. If you put a flea in a box, that flea will only jump as high as the lid. But if you let that lid off, that flea will go to the ceiling. They try to put a lid on people. Oh, you're going to give me this? Oh, yes, I'll vote for you. You're going to give me this? Oh, goody, goody, goody. And it's called the entitlement situation. So we need to understand that we, the people, have the opportunity to work. We have the opportunity to do what we need to do to provide for our households. That's how this country was set up. The government was there to oversee, but to serve. We, the people, serve. Not that we are, to serve what our needs are as far as keeping our lives safe. Keeping our lives safe. And there's an order. And I'm telling you, it's gotten out of control. It's gotten out of control.
Is there anybody in office that is not, or in office that's not a servant? That shouldn't, I mean, that's that is their purpose, is to be a servant. Is there anybody serving in an office that I mean,
You want a list of the people that aren't? You want a list of the people that aren't serving? Would you like-
no.
I'll give you name by name the ones that are not, that are serving themselves, but they're not serving the people.
The list would be way too long.
No, that's not what I meant.
No, but
Is there any-
President Trump, I'm going to see this. He's a servant. He did not have to run for president, and he wasn't doing it for his ego. He did it. He says, I've heard the cries of the people, because he's a CEO. He's a builder. And I believe that his heart was stirred, and he heard from the Most High, you can help build America. You can help build America back up so people will be able to have their own businesses. There was a terrible stronghold on businesses with the prior administration. They had this much paperwork to do in order to keep their business flowing. And that's why they couldn't hire people, because they couldn't keep up with all the governmental paperwork. President Trump did away with that, so mom and pop businesses and other businesses could function again. So we have a president right now who is a servant to the people. He's a disruptor. He wants to drain the swamp, but he wants to help the people, all the people. He doesn't see color. He doesn't see color. He wants to see all human beings have an opportunity. Right. Isn't this supposed to be the land of opportunity? But it takes us to roll up our sleeves.
Right.
Well, all government jobs is a serving.
That was not my question. That was not my point. My point, I guess I should have reworded it. Says, is there anybody in office? Is there any office where they're not elected by the people? Because being elected by the people means that you serve those that put you in that office. So in government, there are some positions that are not elected. In the Pentagon, there's not elected officials in the Pentagon. Now, in our judicial system, the three branches of government, yes, those three branches we elect those people in those three branches. But you have in the government also the military. Those young men and women, they volunteer to serve. I know that.
There is men and women that work for the government, that there to serve the government. They do not get elected at all, but they're there. So you have a lot. There's so much in the government that's we talk about the Congress and the president and the judicial system and all that, but there's more below those three major systems in our government that flows down, and they are ignored and rejected and treated very poorly. And especially those young men and women that are out there battling what they're battling and living in a desert tent, sweating their little bodies off. Right. But they're serving. Those are the ones that are truly serving.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, because and my point was that in government offices, if you're elected, then you should be serving the people that elected you, and the people that didn't elect you, whether or not I voted for you or not, you're still serving me, because that's who I am. But it's interesting that the volunteers for the military are serving also. So anyway, time's up. I have to go. I've got to get going. James, you got something you want to add quickly?
No, I just wanted to make one point of correction.
Sure.
The executive branch obviously is elected by the people.
Right.
The Congress is obviously elected by the people. The judicial is not, from a federal standpoint. Now, states are maybe a little different. Most of them are still appointed, but some are, they go run for election, some of the judges. But the federal ones are appointed by the executive office.
Aren't they voted in by our elected officials? So if you think
no, you have consequences, certainly. I mean,
but not by the people. Not by the people.
You elect like you elect the president.
Okay, hold off, Joe. Let James finish here.
The question is what I'm asking is, doesn't the Congress or whomever, we elect them? they end up where the president chooses the Supreme Court, federal Supreme Court judge, and they end up electing yes or no about him. Is that correct, or am I?
No, that's again, they're appointed by the president of the United States for the federal bench. All across from the Supreme Court all the way down to the appellate court, and they are confirmed by the Senate of the United States. So yes, so if you have a very strong Republican conservative appointing judges, and you have a left of center Senate, you're going to have different consequences. So the elections have consequences of who you choose. That's why I think it's very, very important, whether you like President Trump or not. I tend to love him very much, and I appreciate what he's been doing. Is he needs to get in for the next 4 years so that at least 2 more Supreme Court justices are going to be retiring, and we always get this close to making a real big giant dent in abortion, and I'm not a one issue person, but that's my biggest issue, and if we can get in there and cut the knees from under them, or whatever that statement is, that's the important thing. So, but you need a strong Senate that's on the same side to do it, because
look what happened with Roberts. Judge Roberts, we thought he was a conservative judge.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to implement the law. They're supposed to, the law is supposed to be there, sir. They're supposed to serve the law, if you will. And
right.
and he came against some things that are morally wrong. And
against that Louisiana abortion law.
Okay. Thanks, James, for clarifying that. Okay, because I don't know everything on the Constitution, and and you forget things, so I wanted to just make sure I understood that, and I appreciate that.
Point is that those that are appointed by people who are elected.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
There's nobody appointed that isn't appointed by somebody that was elected. So that basically trickles down. In other words, it's the same thing as working for someone. The responsibility of a business is if one of your employees does something, you're still responsible overall for what has happened, even with your people who work for you. So it's the same thing. If you appoint somebody and something goes wrong, you're the one that's ultimately responsible for what that is. It still comes down to, even if you're appointed by somebody that's elected, you're still serving the people under that auspice.
And guess what, Mark? It's like-minded, like kind.
I get it. I get all that.
People that elect certain people may be as dark as can be.
I understand. Okay. That's the bottom line I wanted to get to there. It still goes to everything we've talked about today. Thank you guys so much. So do I understand that James and AviGayle are not voting for Biden this year then?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I just want to be clear on that.
I was going to say who?
All right. Thanks a million, everybody. Thanks, Joe, for popping in. And now we're all going to pop out as soon as I get over here. And we'll be back next week, faux show. And I think I might even have a special guest for us next week, and somebody that actually knows something about this besides Governor O'Hare over here. And so thanks, everybody, for your input, and we'll see you all next week.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
Roosevelt, do solemnly swear
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.